It stands for Humble Beginning, Humble Beginning Apparel. And Humble Beginning is an apparel brand that seeks to connect with humanity at its core. What does that mean? Well, there is a scripture in the Bible that totally depicts what we are. That says in Philippians 2:3-5, that says, "Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility consider others more significant than yourselves." The purpose of Humble Beginning is to make sure that you know that you are Humble Beginning. Humble Beginning is not just a brand that wants you to buy our clothing, but rather we would have you know that you are part of something special, something unique, something that you can say, I'm doing something good. It's something that you can say, I'm helping people. And how will we say that you're helping people? Well, again, coming from Philippians 2:3-5, when you're not doing anything out of selfish ambition, where you're not being conceited on how you want to do something for someone, but it's out of a pure heart, out of loving people. And so with that being said, we want to consider others more significant than ourselves. That's the purpose of Humble Beginning. That's the meaning of Humble Beginning. And so with that being said, when someone purchases our brand, when someone puts money to our brand, an article of clothing that they consume for themselves, and we will give to an organization called Swan for Kids. Swan for Kids, if you want any more information about it, when you go on our website, you will see a link that you can click on. So if you were to go on to www.humblebeginningapparel.com, there will be a link, Swan for Kids, that you can click on, and you will be able to go onto that page and get more information about that nonprofit organization. And I know that they are those who are giving to a community of people or children with incarcerated parents. So that is something we're excited about as a brand, as a clothing apparel, is to be able to give to children who are really in need. So it goes back to Philippians 2:3-5. The name Humble Beginning came up when I was sitting around thinking, man, I've always wanted to start something to do with clothing, something that had meaning behind it. And as I thought about my life, which I can share a little bit about my life, I came from the projects in Memphis, Tennessee. In the projects, a lot of crime, a lot of drug, a lot of gang violence. Fast forward, we moved to the hood, where my mother and her boyfriend, would have been my stepfather at the time, me and my twin sister and my two younger brothers was my stepfather's kids, and with that there was a lot of verbal abuse, lots of physical abuse from my father to my mother. So being in that environment, being in that kind of a household, it really took a toll on my mind as a young man, as a young kid, as a child as well, just realizing that this is life for me. And there was no way that I saw a way out of that. And because of that, by the time I was 11, by the time I was 12, I had lost any ability to dream. Like, I had no vision for what I wanted to do in life. All I had was a basketball. All I had was my older cousins and other men in the neighborhood that were the same as what I saw with my stepfather, which was abusive to women, disrespectful to authority. And so if you are a young man growing up in that situation, you just don't feel like there's any hope. So all you do is play sports all day or try to hang out with your friends. And as a result of that, no dream. So throughout that, I feel like the Lord was doing a lot of humbling, a lot of dealing with me as a person to show me that there was no other way other than to look to Him. So by the time I was 16, there was a young man that had come down to the inner city in Memphis, Tennessee, from St. Louis, of all places. And he wanted to reach out to young men that were fatherless, that would have been a statistic in the world. He humbled himself. I mean, speaking of considering others more, valuable than yourself, he gave and gave and gave of himself, even took a lot of us young men out of the inner city, took us to St. Louis, Missouri, and took us to a Cardinal game. So from there, I was out of my environment and I got to see a whole nother world. And in seeing that world, I began to dream again. I began to think, man, there's something more to this, and I want more. I had determination all of a sudden, but yet and still, I had no vision of how to implement those things. And so fast forward, the Lord saved my life at 16 years old. I couldn't read until I was about in 11th grade, because I was reading at a 3rd grade level. And I learned how to read by memorization. I would memorize words. I passed tests by memorizing sentences and memorizing how to spell them. And so when I got to a test, I was able to do well, so to speak. And then I went to college. I graduated high school at 20 years old. So that was humbling, walking through the hallways of a high school at 20 years old, people laughing at you because I had just ruined a lot of things. Just skipping school and doing different things. So eventually, I graduated at 20 years old, went to college, graduated in 3.5 years, met my wife there at the same school at Lindenwood University in St. Louis, and got married, have 2 kids, and have 2 boys and 1 girl on the way. And humble beginning, right? That's where it comes from. It comes from that place. Just realizing where I was in life, realizing that I had no vision, no determination, then having someone give of himself to me, introduce Christ to me, and now I'm in a different space. I'm in a different area of life, and it's been a very adventurous walk, but here I am. And now I have vision. I can start a business, and a business to give back to kids that come from a lot of the similar situations that I come from. That's a big deal to me. So humble beginning derives itself from that, and Philippians 2:3-5, to count others more significant than yourselves, is a big deal. Well, the idea behind that is that people will look back at themselves. There's another part of humble beginning that I think of, and I'll just show you this. There's a little kid there. So on young girls' clothes or even adult clothing, you might see a young girl. If it's a lady wearing the apparel. If it's a man, then you may see the boy. The purpose of that, it goes along with the humble beginning with HB. It shows you, there's a quote that I have that I came up with, and it says, dependability and vulnerability is not weakness, but it is humility. And I think that the idea is that people will look at that and remember that. So wearing that, it will cause them to look at themselves and really remember that I do have a humble beginning. Most people do. Whether you come into the world naked, that's all of us. Whether you have an unfortunate situation in life, growing up in an environment that may not be the safest, or whether it's just simply working hard to earn a living. Anybody who's anyone has a humble beginning. Everyone depends on someone. So we don't want to say that you have to be this humble person to wear the clothing, but to remember that you do have a humble beginning. And most people do have a beginning where they were helping or giving to others. I can just remember another story was when I was young, when we living in the community that I lived in, we would be able to go to the next door neighbor's house and ask for a cup of sugar. That doesn't happen as much anymore. People aren't that way anymore. That's depending, or that's vulnerable, showing yourself to be vulnerable. But everyone is vulnerable at some point, and we're all dependent all the time. So that doesn't go away. We're always dependent. Whether you're a millionaire who has businesses, you depend on people to purchase in order for you to have your business flourish and continue. So I want to communicate that through the clothing. That would be the symbol of humble beginning. And when you see a kid praying, a kid reminds us that we need help. And that's just in general to everybody.
Humble beginning, humble beginning, humble beginning. Everybody has a humble beginning, humble beginning.
Toby.
Humble beginning. Everybody has a humble beginning.